Welcome to Varsity Sports Live. I'm Jason Andera, and we're letting Tom Neiman relax in Fargo on the eve of the Dakota Marker game, so I guess we give him the night off. But we will have Jody Norstedt from North Dakota to talk all about some of the big matchups, including that rare 1 versus 1. Yes, there were two teams tied atop the polls in Class AA, and they faced off tonight live right here on Midco Sports Network. So we'll get to that. We'll get to some 1 versus 2s. There were two different 1 versus 2s in South Dakota. We've got highlights and reaction of both of those as well. So a jam-packed edition of Varsity Sports Live. And I'm bringing the energy tonight all by myself. And I hope you guys are out there too, staying up, ready to watch a bunch of high school football highlights from the Dakotas. Let's get started with some scoreboards across the region. And we'll start with number 1 Bismarck. Yeah, they look like a number 1 team. 48-0 over the Coyotes. Bismarck Century 41-14 against the tough Minot team. Those two teams definitely look like they're on a collision course for not only a regular season matchup, but maybe a Dakota Bowl matchup later in the season. We'll see. More scores from North Dakota. Central taking on South. South bounces back into the win column. We've got highlights of that one coming up. Cheyenne, no problem with Dickinson. And they were one of the ranked teams with no problems tonight as they get the win in AAA. More scores from North Dakota. Davies taking on Red River. They have no problem. They really do look like a top 5 team now that they are in that ranked part. And then you've got West Fargo and Fargo North. Two teams desperate for a victory. Look at that. The Spartans come up with the win. We've got highlights of that one coming up in just a bit. St. Mary's and Shanley. Yes, that is correct. They were both ranked number 1 coming into this one. Live right here on Midco Sports Network. Jody and Greg were on the call. They'll have plenty of analysis and highlights of that one coming up shortly. The Squirrels of Central Cass took care of Grafton 34-6. No problem for them. Jamestown with the battle of the top 5 teams, Valley City and Jamestown. It was the hometown team that came out with the victory in that one. And it's Turtle Mountain who gets the win over Watford City 36-0. Another big matchup in Class A, Hillsboro Central Valley gets the road win over Kindred. And then we've got a couple of Cardinals matching up. Again, top 5 teams. We've got highlights of this one coming up as well. It was a defensive battle, but the road team pulls out the win, Langdon. Then Newtown takes on Bishop Ryan. No problem for the Lions. Bowman County, they're a newcomer in Class A, and boy, they're playing some good football. 48-0 for the road win, taking down the Bison. Highlights coming up later as well. Dickinson Trinity with the shutout in the third quarter over Killdeer, and then Beulah, Heart River. Beulah bounces back into the win column after a loss last week. Win for them. New Salem, Glen Ellyn, Shiloh Christian. So many teams in 9-man football that look like they're title contenders, but the Holsteins put a whooping on Hettinger Scranton, and Shiloh Christian gets by Richardson Taylor Hebron as well. New Rockford Cheyenne puts up 50 points on the Polar Bears, and Napoleon Gackle Streeter gets the win over Linton HMB as well. Let's take a look at some South Dakota scores now. We'll start with that 1 versus 2 battle. Homecoming night for Roosevelt. Oh man, it did not look like a 1 versus 2 battle. Can't wait to dig into that one shortly on the show. And then number 5 in Class 11 AA takes on number 3 in 11 AAA. And the Sioux Falls Washington Warriors take care of business at home. 2 touchdowns for Tupac Capella. He keeps adding to that big total. Stevens on the road in Brandon Valley, and it was close in the first half, but second half was all Brandon Valley. Carter Olthoff went off. We've got some highlights of that one coming up. And then a heartbreak city. Aberdeen Central, 2 weeks in a row, looking for field goals to win the game. 2 weeks in a row, come up a little short. Rapid City Central gets the home victory in the Battle of Centrals. Harrisburg and Watertown, this one came down to a final play. Harrisburg had a chance, scored with just under 2 minutes to go in the game to pull within 2, and then Watertown gets the interception the next time Harrisburg gets the ball back, and Watertown just 1 loss on the year. A good year for the Arrows. And then Yankton pulls one out against Lincoln. We've got some post-game analysis coming up later from Jeremy Hoyk to tell us the key, the turnaround, the turning point in that game where the Bucks got the home win. Lapeer, 35-0, no problem with Sturgis tonight. And that was a big night for McGuire Raskey. He ran for nearly 200 yards, 4 touchdowns. So they've been doing it with the pass lately, but Raskey comes out with a huge game to take down Sturgis. Huron and Mitchell, we've got highlights of that one coming up as well, but Mitchell put some big drives together to get a huge home win, a desperate win for this Colonel team that really needed a win. Douglas took on St. Thomas More in 2 different classes, but St. Thomas More gets a very important win to keep in the playoff hunt in Class 11A. And Hot Springs, how about Hot Springs? They're ranked now, by the way. This is a team I picked, to win maybe 2 games this year. Well, they are proving me wrong and wrong and wrong again. 16-0 with the shutout on the road for the Bison. They keep winning. And Dakota Valley had homecoming tonight, and they had no problem with Vermilion. T-Area stays undefeated with a 50-point win over Del Rapids. This is a Del Rapids team that's been in the rankings most of the year. Impressive win for the Titans as their schedule gets very tough after this week. Madison took on Lennox, and we've got highlights of this one coming up as well, but Madison had to score with 12 seconds left to take the lead in this one and find a way to eke out a victory on the road. Over 500 total yards for the Bulldogs. That was an electric passing game. Can't wait to see some highlights of that one. And then another 1 versus 2, Bridgewater, Emery, Ethan, and Canton. Second time in the last 3 games for Canton that they have beaten a number 1 team in their class. Do you think they deserve a number 1 vote? I do. I think they've been the number 1 team for the last few weeks, and we'll have highlights of that one coming up shortly. Sioux Falls Christian, that other team in 11B who lost to Canton, gets a huge win over Flandreau. Wolsey Wessington, no problem in 9AA with the Trojans. And a big one up in Warner. This was close most of the night. Bon Homme pulled away late to get the win. We've got highlights of that one coming up as well. And then a little bit of an upset, I'd say. 9B's Castlewood goes against 9AA Arlington Lake Preston, and ALP just finally got into the rankings last week, and they served notice that they are here to play. 60-31 win, and highlights coming up soon on that one. Baltic and CANASTOTA Freeman, this one was a fun game. We'll tell you more about that in a little bit. And then North Border took on Sully Buttes. Sully Buttes took down North Border to stay undefeated and number 1 in 9B. In that game, Nick Whitler, by the way, ran for 277 yards. He's the quarterback, and 3 touchdowns as Sully Buttes stays undefeated. That's a look at the scoreboards to get you caught up, but now we're going to go 1 layer deeper. We're going to show you some highlights, and we're going to start with the big game of the night. It's been a long time since we've had 2 undefeated teams this late in the season in 11 AAA, but we had that at Howard Wood Field tonight for Roosevelt's homecoming. They were ready. OGorman was definitely ready, and they wanted to pull out a little upset on this one. Let's start this one out with mistakes. There's a theme in this one. Jaden Bourne fumbles, and Zach Norton actually recovers it. He's their quarterback who sets them up for a field goal as they take a 3-0 lead right away in this game. Again, you see a mistake. This is a blocked punt that's recovered by Andrew Pujato, and they turned it into a touchdown this time. Zach Norton runs for over 30 yards. They're up 10-0. Let's move to the second quarter now. This theme continues. Brady Dannenbring looks for his man downfield, but it's Andrew Pujato with the interception. So again, a Roosevelt mistake capitalized by a Norton to Jacob Bird touchdown. No one was guarding Jacob Bird, by the way. He was wide open on the side, and they took a 16-0 halftime lead. The mistakes continued into the second half. Third quarter now, on a punt, Tyler Feldkamp, he wants to make a big play, tries to pick it up. It bounces off him. Sioux Falls OGorman recovers. That's Aiden Diedrich with the recovery. And Norton finds his main man, Canyon Bauer, in the corner of the end zone. And look at that, folks. OGorman's up 22-0 in this one, and they kept going. Again, on the next drive, OGorman strikes to Canyon Bauer for a touchdown, 29-0 lead, and that came off of a mistake, by the way, as well. And then they totally iced the game. Tate Wishard with a touchdown to take a 36-0 lead, and the Knights upset number 1 Sioux Falls Roosevelt. Not just upset them, they put 36 points on the board against a team who's given up a total of 7 points to ranked teams in 11 AAA this year. in their 2 games that they played. So a huge explosion offensively for the Knights, but it was just defense that their head coach Jason Poppinga wanted to talk about.
It was awesome. It's great for our team, momentum, and now we're just on to the next game, focus on the next team. I mean, honestly, we think we kind of struggled coming out of the gate right away. We thought we had a better second half. Our offense was more efficient in the second half, and I mean, we just got to keep improving every week. We're on the next game right now. We're going to go watch film and improve for next week, improve on our plays for next week, and then we're starting to scout the next team.
Now they're already ready for next week. Next week they'll be live right here on Midco Sports Network hosting Huron. But yeah, we'll get to Jason Poppinga's comments about the defense and how they dominated this game a little later in zone coverage in the show. Let's move on to some more AAA football. The Battle of the Centrals. Aberdeen Central taking on Rapid City Central. Both teams kind of needing to win to stay out of the cellar in this conference. Things get started with Dylan Stabner of Aberdeen. He would score a 37-yard touchdown, and then on the next possession, Dylan Stabner keeps it rocking for Aberdeen Central. He would get the ball down to the 9-yard line, but Carter Hogg would pound that ball in, and Golden Eagles are up 14-0 after the first quarter. So you can see the running game really pile up for the Golden Eagles. Central looks like, Rapid City Central that is, looks like they're in a little bit of trouble, but they would come back with their crazy double wing offense. You never know who the quarterback's going to be, but one thing you do know is if Jeremy Weidman gets the ball, he is a threat to score each and every time. He wiggles his way through the line and gets a 46-yard touchdown. They make it 14-6, and Aberdeen Central feeling the heat from the hometown Cobblers. They'd get the ball back on the second play of their quarterback, Austin Huff. Perfect ball downfield to Brock Baker, takes it 67 yards for the touchdown, making it 21-6. And by the way, we're just at the end of the first quarter. This game had a lot of huge plays. Second quarter, Jeremy Weidman. I told you, every time this guy gets his hands on the ball, he's a threat to score. 73 yards this time, and they make it a 21-12 ball game. And they're saying, hey guys, we're still in this. And yes, they were still in this. 2 plays into that next series, the ball this time would sail over Xander Dansby's head. And look at that, Aaron Iverson recovers for the Cobblers. All of a sudden, they're in business, and they've got this is actually their quarterback, by the way. It's Cole Meisman, who throws a nice little, touchdown, throws me a nice touchdown to Wyatt Youngclaws, who pulls it down in the end zone, and things got going for this Rapid City Central team. It was back and forth. Aberdeen Central pulled ahead late in this ball game, but it was Rapid City Central who scored the final 2 scores of the game to get a victory. In fact, Aberdeen Central drove down and was ready to hit a 37-yard field goal to win this thing. It was blocked in the final seconds of the game. That's 2 weeks in a row that Aberdeen Central has had a missed field goal that could have won them the game, but they are now 1-5 in the year. Rapid City Central wins it, and they go to 2-4. Another Rapid City team on the east side of the state taking on Brandon Valley. Stevens' first possession of the game. Colton Hartford's playing quarterback tonight. He throws it up, and it's picked off by Ethan Tellinghausen, who brings it back for the old pick 6. Extra point was blocked, though, so 6-0 lead. Then it's this connection. You're going to see a lot of this connection. Thomas Skolton finds his man Carter Olthoff, the first of 4, count them, 4 touchdowns on the night. Colton Hartford back for Rapid City Stevens. He bombs it to Bridger Nesbitt, a guy who's been a touchdown machine all year long. And with under 30 seconds to go in the half, he finds his man down the end of the field, Branson Keel, and they actually had the lead, 12-7 at half. But like I said, second half was all Brandon Valley, all Carter Olthoff, and the Lynx survive, I guess you'd say, even though they got a 20-point win, found a way to keep the Rapid City Stevens Raiders off the board in the second half. Let's move on to the nightcap at Howard Wood Field, where number 5 Brookings in Class AA takes on number 3 Sioux Falls, Washington. And let's see if we can guess who's going to score. Oh, it's going to be Tupac Capella. Yeah, he's got 54 touchdowns for his career, adds a couple more in this game, no surprise. Jacob Schoen gets things going. Jay Wilbur with a nice catch for 12 yards. and that's going to tie things up at 7. But then here comes Tupac once again. He wiggles his way through and scores another touchdown, his second of the night. And the Warrior fans, the Warrior faithful, always supportive of their hometown team. And then this time Jaden Johansson says, hey Tupac, I want to get a touchdown. And yes, he does. He keeps it on the RPO and decides to run a 19-yard touchdown in himself. The Warriors rolled from that point on. Bobcats put up that early touchdown, could not add to that, and they go down in defeat to the Warriors, 27-7. The schedule for Washington, by the way, gets a little lighter for the rest of the season. I would not be surprised to see them win the rest of the season out. Let's take a look at some AA football, 11 AA football. Mitchell in desperate need of a win. They've had a couple chances this year at home to really look like a playoff team, but they haven't done it. This game, Keel Nelson takes it 41 yards and puts the first touchdown of the game on the board, but we're answering right away on the next drive. Jet McGurr to Kobe Bush. He's been a touchdown maker this year. Things are tied up at 7 in the second quarter. A little interception by Bryce Steffen, and they didn't do much with it, but they did put Mitchell deep in their own territory. In fact, they started this drive from their own 1. Drew Kitchens runs the ball out of the 1-yard line, and eventually, after 99 yards of offense, Carson Max punches in the touchdown to take a 14-7 lead in the second half. Mitchell decided to really crank it up, scored a couple more touchdowns. Huron came on late, but could not catch up. Mitchell ends up keeping that running game going. Here's Drew Kitchens on the little spin and stiff arm and drags a few defenders with him. And the running game is always the hallmark of this Mitchell Colonels team, and they really took it to him in the second half. And there's the other half of the Thunder and Lightning. Carson Max, look at that. He can run between the tackles, he can get outside, and then he comes back in to finish off the run. Huge win for Mitchell, and Max punches that one in from 80 plus. Huron trying to get back on their board. Their senior quarterback, Jet McGurr, rolls out to his right, floats it in for another touchdown, and they did try to make a game out of this late, but like I said, Mitchell's running game, and they took the clock and put it down 28-13. They get the win. Carson Max had 134 yards and 2 touchdowns on the day. Let's take a look at Canton. The number 1 and number 2 teams in 11B, Bridgewater, Emery, Ethan, one of the better defenses in the state. Here's Brady Hawkins. He's going to find Jamin Aaron. Yes, the guy that usually runs the ball, for a long touchdown pass. A little surprise early on for this team, and it's 7-7 right off the bat. That was after a 7-0 lead. Canton had a kick return for a touchdown to start things off. Hawkins this time to Schultz, and they take a 14-10 lead, but Caden Verley is always going to have a say on what the Canton SIOUX do. He takes one to the house. Or actually, I went to the 4-yard line before Scott Peterson goes with the TD keeper, and it's 24-17. Canton bounces back to take the lead, and they would keep that lead as the final drive of the game. Bridgewater, Emery, Ethan, they say no good, and Canton's defense steps up and gets that huge victory. Like I said, second time in the last 3 games that the Canton SIOUX have beaten the number 1 team in 11B. I think they're a number 1 team right now. What do you guys think? Yeah, they agree with me. Do we have any? Okay, let's go to Arlington, where Arlington Lake Preston is quietly undefeated. And they are ranked, by the way, in the top 5 in 9AA. And again, it's kind of quietly. But they aren't quiet here. A big night for Devin Hewer, 8-yard touchdown run. He had over 100 yards rushing in the first half of this game. More Hewer, 10-yard touchdown run this time with a little leap at the end. And all of a sudden, they're up 14-0. Coach Gilbertson likes that. Gavin Holland runs one in, and before you know it, Castlewood, a team that hasn't lost all year, has looked like one of the better teams in 9B, was down 22-0. Then they bring out their all-stater, Caden Eng, 44-yard touchdown run, and they are on the board, hoping to turn this thing around, but guess what? The Badgers decide to pound it some more. This time, Gavin Holland, 34-yard touchdown run, and when you can make long run after long run, it really starts to get discouraging for the defense. and Arlington is up 30-12 at this point. Guess what? Yeah, you guessed it. Another long run for Arlington. Devin Hewer this time, or actually, excuse me, that's Holland again. 57-yard run. That sets up a little 1-yard dunk here for Devin Hewer, and that tandem in the backfield was unbelievable tonight. Those guys were really pounding the ball. Castlewood trying to come back here. Brandon Beneke, one of the better passers in 9B, 53-yard touchdown pass. Most of this done by Noah Wiersma after the catch, and they pull within 20. It's 38-18, but the rest of the night was all Arlington and more runs. 62-yard touchdown run this time by Gavin Holland. They're still adding the numbers to see how many yards these guys ran for, but one thing I do know, they did score 61 points. 60 points, excuse me. So a big night for the number 5 team in the state, Arlington Lake Preston, who put 60 points on a team that has been playing so well in 9B. First loss of the year for the Castlewood Warriors. Big win for those Badgers. Let's move on to some more 9-man football where we've got Baltic taking on CANASTOTA Freeman. And it starts off with a little Sam Mustin, who takes the ball around the end all the way for the score. He's a man. He's a man playing in a boy's world. Nice score by Sam Mustin. Has to take a little extra energy right there. Yeah, it's tough. Trey Ortman and Austin Thu have been the power for this Pride team this year. Thu gets the nice run, knocking on the door, and Trey Ortman, he'll get his name in the paper for this one. Touchdown as he punches one in to take an 8-6 lead. More CANASTOTA this time. They do it on the defensive side as Tristan Pierce gets in the way of this Baltic Bulldog pass and takes it the other way. So just when Baltic starts to get things going their direction, the Pride turned things around, and Trey Ortman, he had a phenomenal week last week, not only throwing but running the ball this week. The big hit by Sam Mustin, but it doesn't matter because the Pride keep marching down the field. Trey Ortman dumps one off to Tice Ortman for the touchdown, and that's right before the half. And CANASTOTA would hold on to this one. They got up by quite a bit. They were up by more than 2 scores before Baltic recovered 2 onside kicks to get back into this thing. But eventually, CANASTOTA actually recovered one of their own onside kicks in the second half and end up getting the 34-30 victory. That's going to do it for South Dakota for right now. We've got a couple other highlights we'll try to get in later in the show. A big one up in Warner and a couple others across the state. But we are going to go some 1 versus 1 coming up next. St. Mary's and Shanley. We're going to see who is the real number 1 after this.
Varsity Sports Live on Midco Sports Network is presented by Avera Orthopedics, Farmers Union Insurance Agency, South Dakota State University, and Farmers Union Insurance.
Well, as exciting as South Dakota high school football was tonight, there's a lot going on in North Dakota as well, and Jody Norstedt was there for the 1 versus 1 matchup. Jody, did it live up to the billing?
Oh yeah, it was fun. It was a grinded out, smash mouth game, low scoring, defensive battle, all the above. And we even got to see the breadth of some players on a cold fall night. But a couple other storylines we were following tonight. Can Bowman County keep it rolling? The undefeated Bulldogs were in Hazen against a Bison team that just dealt Beulah its first loss last week. Class A was full of good matchups, Jandy. Hillsborough Central Valley trying to extend its win streak to 18 games at Kindred, who's won 4 straight, by the way. Then a battle between 2 ranked opponents in Class A as Langdon Edmore Munich visited Carrington. Oh, and did we mention, like we mentioned, 1 versus 1. Let's start there. St. Mary's has won 7 of the last 8 meetings between the 2 rivals, including last year's state championship game. The hype was there all week, both teams admitting this game has a different feel. It was all about the defense early. Brandon Rosberg breaks through the offensive line, drops Drew Dosh for the loss. Both coaches said limiting turnovers would be key. St. Mary's nearly turned it over here, but they recover their own fumble. Later it's speedster Mason Speece on the carry. St. Mary's drove 19 plays on its opening drive, but Shanley's defense stands tall at the goal line here, and then moments later, Joey Heinert finds the end zone, gets the blocking he needs, but one block was called a hold. So they take the touchdown off the board. The visitors chew up the clock, but have nothing to show for it. They force a Shanley punt, but the Saints muff it move ahead of the second. That's where Cade Busick gets the offense going for Shanley. The long run followed by this quick hitter to Andy Clark. Coming up here down to the 1-yard line. Busick with a rifle to Andy Clark. Next play, Busick scores on the sneak for a 7-0 lead. Deacons open the second half with the ball, and they go to the air. Busick throwing the ball really well tonight, and he's looking for UND commit Haley Buchholz. It's a nice option. Beautiful throw and catch. Buchholz had 200 yards, remember, in the season opener, along with 2 touchdowns. Later on the drive, Shanley loads up 4 receivers on one side. Austin Manuel's screen works to perfection, makes it 14-zip. The ground game really picked up for the Deacons. Buchholz got involved a lot. He has a big game here, but the Saints start to build momentum thanks to Joey Heiner. Look at the dance moves here. Boy, that's a Jason Andera type dance move. Then it's Dosh firing across the middle for number 7, and the touchdown cuts Shanley's lead in half at 14-7. Saints get the ball back, have a shot to tie the game with 3 minutes left, but on 3rd and long, Joe Cava pressures Dosh, leads to a bad throw. Buchholz with his 3rd pick of the year. The Deacons seal it up for the 14-7 win to move to 6-0, winning their 9th straight at home. Busick finishes with 111 rushing yards, 114 passing yards, and 2 touchdowns. The quarterback says the performance is great, but it was the win that mattered most.
You know, it just took everybody working together. I mean, we've got absolutely about 7 or 8 stud offensive linemen that just get it all done for us, and we couldn't do it without them first and foremost. This is just a great confidence win and a great feeling win for us. We have wanted this for a long time. One of my coaches came up to me and told me before the game, 330 days. That's how long it has been since that state championship game.
The quarterback giving his O-line credit. Gotta love that. Century and Minot. At halftime, Century was leading 21-14. Yes, the Patriots ranked 2nd in the state. Minot, a 2-4 record on the year. Minot's doing well at home, though, on homecoming. But here's a catch. Mason Peterson from Cade Feeney. That sets up this. Nathan Kraft into the end zone, makes it 28-14. And then Grant Anderson's going to bust off a long run. Century doing a nice job of running the ball, and that is a good 1-2 punch. Grant Anderson and Nathan Kraft, they've been doing it all year. Century up 28-14 still at the end of the 3rd, and then Cade Feeney hitting Noah Skowski. Makes it 35-14. Feeney had 4 touchdowns passing last week and a touchdown rushing. He's really coming into his own. Barry Holman trying to fire up his quarterback, Jackson Gunville. Gunville looking for the receiver, but it's knocked away. Big breakup for the Patriots, and Century hangs on to win this one, 41-14. So after having a 7-point lead at halftime, the Patriots wake up and roll. They'll be at Davies next week, but this one was big over a Minot team that they might have been overlooking.
We recognized at halftime that they're a playoff team and that we need to come out and play like a playoff team as well. They were fighting for a playoff chance, and we were fighting for number 1. So we just brought the momentum out of the second half, and we just kept running.
Back to the EDC in Central, facing South. A new turf, Brant Quam Field for Fargo South, and they broke it in style. And what I mean by that is Danny Lahai broke it in style. Already leading 7-0 thanks to a Lahai 40-yard touchdown. He scores from 52 yards out, up 14-0 are the Bruins. Then Lahai bounces this run to the outside, and thanks to a great cutback, how about 51 yards? Why not when you have a 52 and a 40 already in your back pocket? 21-zip Bruins. After a Knights turnover late in the half, Wyatt Hansen finds Lahai in the flat, and he follows his blockers, and he does what he's been doing in every highlight so far in this sequence. 26-yard touchdown. Guys, give them some 5s. 27-0 Bruins at the half. First play of the half. Of the second half, Lahai takes the handoff. Are you kidding me? Are you serious? Number 2 in the end zone again, 33-0, pointing to the camera. Central has a chance late in the quarter to score, but on 4th and goal, Jackson Lorange is picked out by Jamal Spivey, who goes 98 yards the other way for the pick 6. The Bruins win easy, 46-6. How about that one? What a response after losing to Bismarck last week. Wyatt Hansen, 8 of 12, 85 yards and a score. Lahai, those numbers are unbelievable. That's like video game stats. 14 carries, 260 yards, 4 total touchdowns. Talk about breaking in the new turf. Wow.
It was amazing. We just We just been waiting for this all summer. We put in the work for this. We deserve this W. And I got to thank my line, too. They played a hard side tonight. I wouldn't have the touchdowns if it weren't for them.
We've been seeing it going up over the past couple months. We think it's cool. It's awesome. Our coach is named after it, so it's just cool to remember him and just set a tone for this program for the rest of the years to come.
How about West Fargo and North? West Fargo doesn't waste any time. The Packers trying to get things back on track. North, too. These are two desperate teams sitting in the bottom of the EDC standings looking for that first win. Declan Genova taking the opening kickoff, spins out of trouble to find some daylight, and he's gone. So how about the Packers on the road setting the tone before the fans can even take their seats? It's 8-0. North wasn't phased. They drive down the field, and Peyton Fisher finishes off the drive with a 4-yard score, ties it at 8. Same score later in the first. Caleb Friddle takes it himself up the middle, breaks a few arm tackles, bounces off his own blocker before getting loose for 78 yards for the score. Spartans take a 14-6 lead. He's still running, Mr. Friddle. West Fargo returns the favor on the next drive. Cooper Solly with the deep ball. Freshman Carson Hegerly, fantastic young receiver for the Packers, brings it down. We're tied at 14. Spartans led 20-14 to the break. Same score in the fourth. Spartans strike with another big hitter. Once again, it's Fisher breaking a tackle. Look at him shake out the defender, sprint to the end zone, 70 yards, 26-14 North. Looking hungry for a win. Fisher wasn't done, but this time he makes a big play on defense. He cuts in front of the receiver, comes down with the pick. West Fargo made a late rally, but it wasn't enough. North takes down the Packers for their first EDC win and their first win over West Fargo in a decade.
It feels good. We knew it was one we had to have, so it was definitely a little extra incentive to get this win, so it felt good. It felt real good. We were rolling after that. We wanted to keep the momentum going. We weren't going to let them score, so we know we had to make some big plays.
We'll get to Davies Red River after a bit. Let's get to some big Class A tilts. Hillsborough Central Valley ranked number 1 in the state, taking on Kindred tonight. The Burros going to the air early. This one a big tilt between the top 2 teams in Region 1. Micah Gallagher to Carson Henningsgaard, good on the basketball court. Pretty darn good on the football field, too. Burrow still driving. Michael Hall welcomes Oscar Benson to his house. Look at this hit. Oh, my goodness. Benson's face mask breaks on the play. But on the next possession for the Burrows, it's a good thing he got that face mask fixed. He's in the end zone. 2-yard plunge, 6-0 Burrows. Boy, that's what you call rough and tough football. Benson at it again. He's gone. 61 yards. He's pulling his Danny LaHaye impersonation, or maybe you could call it the Oscar Benson impersonation for the year he's had. Kindred responds though. Hall through the air, 39 yards to Dawson Schaefer, who gets behind the defense. A few plays later, Hall's going to plunge into the end zone. Hall had a big week last week. 4 of 9 passing, 2 touchdowns, 9 rushes, 2 touchdowns. So he finds the end zone again. Very familiar with that. They cut the lead to 7. The Burros are just too much though. Mark Hastings rumbles in. Burros up 20-7 with 42 seconds left before halftime. That one really hurt because unlike the first half, there was not much offense to be found in the second half until the QB gets it going late in the fourth. Gallagher for a 30-yard run. HCV slams the door with 4 minutes left. Gallagher sneaks it into the end zone, gives the Burros a 27-6 lead, and that's how it ends. The Burros stay undefeated and take over sole possession of first place in Region 1. Benson finishes with 213 rushing yards, 2 scores, another big game for number 11. We caught up with him after the game.
Kindred has some big guys, some really big hitters, so they hit hard, and it's hard to, keep on running like that. But, I got to give a lot of credit to the line. They stepped it up. They got big pushes, They got a big line, and I think we competed with them well.
It was a big game for us. We knew this was a big game for reaching our goals of being region champs this year. So we were pretty amped up all week. We had some great practices, and we came here ready to go this week. So that was the big thing. We just came ready to play.
Big win for them. There was a battle cooking for the best Cardinal in Region 2 tonight in Carrington as Langdon Edmore Munich came to town. Both undefeated to start the night, both ranked in the top 5. The Cardinals, Carrington Cardinals I should say, at number 2. Langdon Edmore Munich at number 5. Langdon starts with the ball, promptly gives it to Carrington. Simon Romfel's pass picked and returned to the house by Seth Nelson. Carrington with the early 6-0 lead to the home team, looking good. But then 3 minutes left in the first half, Romfo would come back strong. Here he finds Grant Romfo, his brother, nearly breaks away, just getting tripped up, but still picks up big yards. Set up Langdon for the easy punch-in by Simon Romfo on the QB keeper to start the second quarter. 3 minutes left in the first half. Langdon's O-line giving Romfo time to fire a deep ball to Sean Getty in the end zone. Good concentration. Defending Region 2 champs up 12-6. Late third quarter, Romfo again showing off that arm. This time to Noah Anderson, who makes a fantastic grab to extend the lead to 18-6. That would make the former quarterback Jacob Delville proud. The guy who graduated last year led him to the Dakota Bowl. That's when the home team kicked it into gear with just under 7 minutes in the game. Carrington drives it to the goal line. Drew Page breaks through, add the 2-point conversion, and the lead is down to 4, and Carrington has momentum. UND commit Caden Wolski going to chase down Simon Romfo for a big loss, and that gives Carrington another crack with the ball in under 5 minutes left. But they're down 4. Seth Nelson looks to the end zone for the lead, but Jackson Delville breaks up the would-be go-ahead score, and Langdon Edmore Munich goes to Carrington's house and pulls off the 18-14 win. Big upset over the number 2 team. It was 5-2, but a big one indeed, and a big one for Langdon Edmore Munich to get on the road.
You know, no one really thought we'd be good this year, losing them senior class last year. You know, we got a team with a lot of heart, and we love each other, and we fight hard.
We said all week coming in that we wanted to defend our region championship, and last year was against Carrington, and this year we knew it was a big test coming here on the road, and the guys rose up to the challenge and got the win.
Bishop Ryan has been rolling along this season, and the Bishop Ryan Lions keep rolling. Ben Bull, 1-yard touchdown run. And then it's Ben Bull passing the ball to Murphy Lip, 46 yards. Nice dime for Ben Bull, who's also one heck of a basketball player, too. Nick Sanders is going to intercept the ball here. This one was really all Bishop Ryan. They were rolling, tipped by Murphy Lip. Nick Sanders gets it, returns it a little ways. Kind of confusing. Both these teams have somewhat similar colors. Then it's Chinaza Udekwa running the ball, getting to the outside, punishing Ronnie, almost sneaks it in, and then he ends up plunging it in for the 21-0 lead. Bishop Ryan looking pretty good in this one. They pick up the victory to improve to 6-0. The number 3 ranked team in Class A gets the job done. Let's go to 9-man. Undefeated Bowman County taking on the Hazen Bison. Slow start for both teams in this one, but here's a little special teams mishap by the Bison. A bad snap results in a block punt. Bulldogs bounce on it. Good field position for Bowman County. Bulldogs QB Jacob Sivahek would have himself a night. Here he finds Caleb Duffield, and he makes some guys miss, runs it down the sidelines for a nice pickup for the Bulldogs. A couple of plays later, Sivahek looks downfield, can't find anyone, and goes into scramble mode, but this kid's a playmaker, slipping out of tackles all over the place, keeps his feet moving. Finally, he's going to get forced out of bounds right in front of the cameraman. Good way to get yourself on TV. Still in the first, we finally get a score. Matt Ossendorf takes a snap, keeps the ball. Touchdown, Bulldogs are up 7-0. The visiting fans are happy about that. Second quarter, this time, Sivahek. Sahovic keeps the ball, runs it up the gut. Bulldogs up 14-0. Hazen tries to answer, but here they get tangled up in the exchange between Isaac Dahl and Tyson Banningwagen. Bulldogs recover, get the ball at midfield. Bowman ball, 4th down, and who else? Sivahek runs his way in once again into the end zone. I pronounced his name 5 different times because he's a monster. Why not? Bulldogs miss the extra point. They're up 20-0. Hazen ball, Dahl drops back, but it's picked off by the Bulldogs' Jason Ortiz. Great position for Bowman County, 4th down and short. Sivahek again, and I'm butchering your name, buddy, but call in, complain, and I'll get it right next time. Bowman wins big, 48-0. There is nothing to complain about for Bowman County on the football field right now. They get a bye next week, and they are absolutely rolling at 6-0. Let's go to Davies against Red River. Tangling in a critical game in the EDC standings. The two squads tied for 3rd in the conference race with identical 2-1 records. The scoring doesn't start until the second quarter. Isaac Balvich takes it in for Davies, first 7 points of the game. Then on Red River's very next drive, they get their punt blocked by Jacob Martyrdam, and it gets scooped up by Ty Weber for the special teams touchdown. Nice heads-up play to keep that one going. Davies up 14-0. Check this play out. After the ensuing Davies kickoff, Parker Monet fades it to the end zone. Bryce Anderson, are you kidding me? Laying out for the spectacular catch. Makes it 14-6 Davies. Later in the first half now, that's something to toot your horn about. It's a handoff to Brett Vitter, who shifts his way into the end zone just before the ball gets knocked out, so touchdown good. Davies up 21-6. Next half, it's more of the same from Davies. Jesse Fork now throws a rainbow to Ty Satter. 60-yard touchdown. Satter, man, he must love playing at Cushman Field. He had 4 touchdowns there last week. Eagles up 28-6, and they roll to the victory tonight, 41-6. And that is a big one for the Eagles, who jump out of conference play next week to host second-ranked Bismarck Century. So some big scores tonight. Janny, Bismarck, the top-ranked team in 3A, of course, rolled to a 48-0 victory over Williston. But we'll send it back to you on what has been a busy night in North Dakota once again.
I'm pretty sure it's Siva Hivek.
Yeah, he's got a complicated name.
And
Give me a break.
I got to remember also to reinforce my face mask so I don't get Oscar Benson.
Wasn't that something?
That was crazy. Good stuff, Jody.
We'll
be back to you with zone coverage in just a bit, but we're going to hear from that 1 versus 2 matchup, a little more from the coaches in both of those in South Dakota, and one more in North Dakota in zone coverage coming up right after this.
Varsity Sports Live on Midco Sports Network is presented by Avera Orthopedics, Farmers Union Insurance Agency, South Dakota State University, and Farmers Union Insurance.
Welcome back to Varsity Sports Live. Now time for a couple more highlights we didn't get to in South Dakota. Let's start with Madison, who took on Lennox. Lennox just dropped out of the top 5. But this was an aerial show in more than one way. Trust me, almost, let's see, I can't even do the math here, almost 800 yards of passing offense in this one. Both teams run out of a no-huddle offense, so fans were hoping for some of that aerial show. And here's Tyler Tappy, who gets things going within the gun, finds Avery, Mason Avery that is, for one of his 10 catches on the night, 20-yard gain for a Bulldog first down, and then he's hooking up in the end zone this time for another touchdown to Avery. He had 3 of those on the night as well. Madison takes an early lead. Coach, let's see, now we got more Mason Avery. This time, look at him go, makes a move to the outside with a little head bop there and scores it into the end zone. Great speed that time, 65-yard connection as we move into the second quarter. Second touchdown of the night. Bulldogs are up 21-0. Then it's time for the Orioles to show what they can do. Zach Leisinger, flush from the pocket, finds his big tight end Brock Anderson down the field. 34 yards in the air, and more aerial highlights, but we had to get one run in there for you. Little running touchdown for the Orioles. They would get as close as 5 points in this one, but it wasn't going to be enough. A back and forth game. Good defense, but mostly it was all about offense. Leisinger, 353 yards. Tappy, 482. Last second touchdown for the Bulldogs. Give them the win. Let's take a look up north where we had another 9-man battle. Bon Homme and Warner. Warner has been a good team with just 1 loss in the year. Bon Homme's been a good team, but has just 1 loss on the year. Bon Homme gets the little pitch to the outside. That's Noah Heesh taking it in for the touchdown and getting Bon Homme up early in this one on Warner territory, 7-0. More from Bon Homme. Joey Slamug with the handoff. Heesh again punches in the touchdown. They took a 14-point lead there, kept a 14-point lead through the second half, and found a way to get this one done on the road, 39-13. It took a big second half effort by Joey Slamug and the Cavaliers to punch this one out. All right, we've got some post-game reaction as well, and let's start with Kent Van Overshield's Mitchell Colonels as they finally get a win at home this year.
Overall, a good start, and we played strong, we played physical, and they had to do that against a good Huron team. Unfortunately, they lost a good running back early, I think, which kind of disrupted their offense. But defensively, we played tough. We were able to make the plays that we needed to make them.
A big win for them. That should get them back into the top 5. The 1 versus 2 battle at Howard Wood Field. Big game, big win for OGorman. Jason Poppinga commented on the defense after the game.
Yeah, huge win, especially since we've been here. We haven't beat Roosevelt, haven't beat Washington, to come out this year and, play the way we have. And, the Washington game was our offense that, really carried us through. And tonight it was obviously our defense. And, just a great output. Our defensive ends, we're our quarterback all night long. The interceptions, the turnovers. Our defense basically scored the points that we put up on the board all night long. So, really proud of those guys, the way they got after it, the aggressiveness that were on the field. So, our defense was outstanding tonight.
So who knew the OGorman defense would steal the show on this night? Well, let's hear from Jeremy Hoyk of the Yankton Press and Dakotan on Yankton's big win over AAA Lincoln.
The deciding score in Yankton's 30-23 victory was a Ethan Wishon 23-yard touchdown pass to Michael Drossman with 11:28 remaining in the fourth quarter. That put Yankton up by a touchdown. Big time win for Yankton. They go to 3-3 on the season, and they go to Sturgis next week. Lincoln falls to 1-5.
So that's a big win for Yankton, and they are going to move up in the polls as well. I think they might be the number 2 team. Let's take a look at the other number 1 and 2 battle in the region. Canton beats the number 1 team twice in their last 3 games. Let's hear from them.
We've gone out and knocked off the number 1 team twice now in 4 weeks, and that's just a testament to them and how hard they work and their leadership.
Canton's good, folks. I think they're going to be number 1 finally after a couple of weeks. Let's talk to Jody Norstedt and get some insight from your zone coverage up in North Dakota, Jody.
First off, an apology to Jacob Svihovec is what I'm going with. And I'm going to go ahead and follow him to make sure I get it right. He's on Twitter. So there you go, Jacob. Consider yourself followed. So I got to get that right. Shanley wins 14-7 tonight, the battle of 1 versus 1. So they'll be the new number 1. And I'm assuming St. Mary's will be number 2. But for Troy Mattern, it's just a regular season win, but he knows that it was a pretty big regular season win.
Like I told the kids before the game, let's talk about validation. We just wanted to validate to the state and to the rest of AA that we have the football team that, we expected to be. Leaving the Fargo Dome last year after that state championship game, we wanted to get back to this game, and it was a good win for us. But again, we just wanted to validate that we're right there again, along with St. Mary's. But again, I think there'll be an opportunity to see that football team again.
So the bullseye is on the back of the Deacons now. How about that Minot-St. Mary's game? Minot and Century, rather. Century ranked number 2 in the state. Minot trying to upset them. They were tied at 14 right before halftime. But then there was a fumble that Minot had in its own territory. Century got the ball and was able to score a touchdown, really swing the momentum, took that 21-14 lead and never looked back in the second half. Ron Wingenbach, the head coach of the Patriots, said that was critical.
The game changed a little bit right at the end of the second quarter when we were able to get that fumble deep in Minot territory, and we're able to punch it in right before the half, knowing that we were going to come out of the half and receive the kickoff. So that was really a big swing there in terms of points and just momentum, and we were able to carry it through the second half.
Mandan with a big win tonight, too, against Legacy. So you see Bismarck and Century still rolling 1-2. Cheyenne at 3 gets a win tonight as well. So those top 3 not really changing for now. The top 5 really not changing, but South making a conversation of trying to get in there. Danny Lehigh with a huge night, Jandy.
Playoffs coming soon. Thanks for all the work tonight, Jody.
Thanks.
All right, we'll be back with a rundown. Some of the best plays of the night from all over the Dakotas. Stay with us. Welcome back to Varsity Sports Live. Jason Andera, Jody Norstedt up north, Tom Neiman off tonight. But let's get to a great night in high school football across the Dakotas. And it's starting, this is actually last week's highlights. This is not the St. Mary Shanley game, but that game was unbelievable as Shanley stays number 1. Century takes out Minot with a big second half to take the win. And then Davies, no problem with Red River as they stay at number 4 in AAA in North Dakota. Fargo South's first game on their new field, and they broke it in good fashion. 46-0, they get the shutout. North and West Fargo, 2 teams desperately in need of a win, and it's the Spartans who find a way to get a win. In Region 1, Oscar Benson doesn't care that his face mask broke earlier in the game. He takes it in for a touchdown, 26-7 victory. The Battle of the Cardinals, Langdon, Edmore, Munich gets the road win, 18-14, huge win for those Cardinals. No problem for the Lions tonight, 54-0, zipping Newtown. Bowman County, I think they're for real officially here, guys. Sahivac with the touchdown. In South Dakota, Canyon Bauer, one of his 2 touchdowns. They shut out the #1 team in the state. Rapid City Central finds a way to win, blocking the field goal to win the game. And Rapid City Stevens was leading at halftime in Brandon, but could not find a way to hold on in the second half. Tupac adds 2 more touchdowns, but this is Jaden Johansson getting one for himself. Mitchell gets the big win at home as they hope to spark a second half comeback. Started out the year at #1, have not stayed there, now out of the rankings. Madison gets a last-minute touchdown. Thomas Gores punched one in to take the win on the road in Lennox, and then another 1 versus 2 game. Canton came back in the second half and got the victory over Bridgewater, Emery, Ethan. And then, I don't know how many yards Arlington Lake Preston got, but it had to be, 800, something like that. They had a ton of yards tonight. And CANASTOTA Freeman holds off a second half comeback by Baltic to take the victory. What a night in high school football. Only a couple weeks away from the playoffs now. We've got some really good football coming up over the next couple of weeks. Make sure to stay with us. Watch more high school football and watch North Dakota State take on South Dakota State next week. It's going to be great.